Hey everybody, I hope you're all doing well. Now I get a lot of questions online every single week from people just starting out in metal detecting, asking how they can get the best start they possibly can in this amazing hobby. So this is going to be a frequently asked questions video for beginners, but if you're more experienced, keep watching. Hopefully you can help a few people out in the comments with your own knowledge and expertise. I'm Adam, this is one of my metal detectors, and this is a frequently asked questions video for beginners to metal detecting. Welcome to D-Tekt Sussex. Okay, so let's get straight in with the most common question I get asked, which is where can I go metal detecting? Maybe you've seen channels like mine online, you've been watching them, you're getting the bug, maybe you've even got yourself a machine and are ready to go, but you're wondering where you can go metal detecting for the first time. Now, it can be a little bit tricky. I'm speaking mostly from my experience here in the UK. It is incredibly difficult, especially in the south of England here, to get permissions. A lot of the farmland around here has either been detected to death, or people have already detecting it, or maybe the farmers don't want people on their land. It is very difficult around here to get permissions. It may well be the same where you are as well. So there's a few things you can do. First and foremost, especially if you're a little bit shy about asking permissions from local landowners, look on Facebook, find yourself a local club. Find yourself someone that does local rallies. Here in the southeast, Peaky Finders is a good one to look at. Hailing Detect over the west of the county is another one. They do regular digs that people can join in, go on, sign up for. Normally costs a little bit to attend, and you get a full day, sometimes even a full weekend of detecting on land that they've managed to arrange themselves. So they do the hard work, you just turn up and have a good time. And the best thing about this is you get to meet other metal detectorists, maybe more experienced metal detectorists, and you can discuss things with them. Maybe they've got the same machine as you, they can show you a few settings, a few tips and tricks. It's a great way to make friends and really get a head start in the community, but also learn a few things and get out there metal detecting. So that's the first little answer to that question I normally give, is try and find yourself a local club or a local organisation that's organising regular digs that you can get out on. Maybe go out once a month or something, and yeah, who knows, maybe you can find yourself something particularly nice on that land. Other things you can do if you're near a beach or within driving distance of a beach. Here in the UK we've got something called the Crown Estate. If you look on their Crown Estate website, you can see a map of the foreshore, and it will show you on there which areas of the beach that they are responsible for. If it's marked on there, you can detect it. Okay, if it's not marked on there, then you just need to check with your local council just to make sure that they're happy for you to go on there and metal detect it. Most of them will be, but it's always best to check. And yeah, get out on a beach. It's a really good way of learning the machine. It's a bit of a different discipline to doing it on land, but you can really find some nice things, modern coinage, sometimes even old coinage, and usually a little bit of jewellery as well. The other thing I'm going to say on this topic is I did see a comment on someone's post online in the last week or so, where someone said it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. And my response to that is absolutely not. A lot of places, especially here in the UK and a lot of places around the world, trespassing is illegal. You can get punished by law for trespassing alone. That's without metal detecting, that's without digging anything up. Not to mention that you're actually stealing from the person whose land it is. If you dig something up and take it away, that is their property that you're removing from their land. So do not, if you see anyone trying to push this kind of idea that it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission, just stop them, tell them straight, okay? It is not a good idea to go without asking permission. You can get punished, you can get fined, you can even get jailed for certain things in certain places. So yeah, it's not worth the risk. Make sure you've got permission and check in advance. If you really are getting stuck, contact your local council, see if there's any parkland or anything like that, any council-owned land locally that they'll let you get on. So yeah, find yourself a club, get yourself on the beaches if you can, get yourself on the local parks if you can, and completely ignore anyone who says you don't need to ask permission. all land is owned by somebody, you have to get permission first. And if all that fails, maybe get writing a few letters, sending a few emails to a local farmers, and just see what response you get. You never know, you might get lucky. So another common question I get every single week is swing technique. Now I did cover this in a previous Q&A last year, so go back and check that out if you can. But just very briefly, swing technique, the idea is that you keep the coil, this bit, as close to the ground as you can without hitting things, hitting rocks and tufts of grass and stuff. As close as you can, but also flat and parallel with the ground all the way through your swing. Now it's quite easy to keep the coil parallel with the ground in the middle, but quite often people find that they come up a little bit at the end. I've seen people coming right up at the end. And what happens is if you're doing that, the depth you're getting off the coil, most of that depth is going through air and not through land. Okay, so you want to keep it as flat and as parallel as you can. Some people struggle with this, and some people don't even know that they're not keeping it parallel. Some people look down, because you're looking top down on the coil, you can't always tell that it's coming up at the edges. So my tip for people, my tip for you watching this is, most people have a mobile phone. Where's mine? Mine's over there. Most people have a mobile phone with a camera on it. Okay, set it up. You don't have to have anything fancy, you don't have to have any fancy tripods or anything. If you've got a back garden, set it up on your kitchen windowsill or something. Or get someone else to stand there and film you. Just go a few feet with your metal detector with your normal swing as you normally would. Film it, get someone to film it, low down if they can, so you can get better perspective on where the coil is in relation to the ground. And just watch and see what it's doing. Is it coming up at the edges? Is it penduluming, which we don't want? Or is it, some people even, when they're trying to keep it flat, they'll actually come up a little bit. They'll keep it parallel, but they'll keep it up, and it'll come up a little bit from the ground. It's a lot easier to hold the coil close to the ground in front of you than it is out to the side. Now when I'm swinging, obviously you'll come out wider on the side that you're holding the metal detector and shallower on the other side in terms of distance from your body. But I find I have to use my shoulder quite a lot. You may find the same, just to keep it parallel. So if I'm in the middle there, my shoulder's there. If I come out, my shoulder comes out nice and wide. And then as I come back in, my shoulder's coming across the whole time. My arm's fairly straight. It'll bend slightly in the middle, just to make sure I don't scuff the ground in the middle of the swing, just to keep it parallel. And then my shoulder will come right across my body there as I'm coming over, okay? So it's that kind of a movement as you go. Keep that shoulder moving if you can. And just try and keep, again, film yourself doing it, get some practice in your back garden, practice in your living room even, and just get some practice in with that movement. It will improve your detecting no end, and you'll get full depth at every single point within your swing. Another question I get on a weekly basis from people who are just starting out in the hobby is, which coil should I get for my brand new metal detector? Now, if you've just got your first metal detector, you're just starting out in the hobby of metal detecting, I would strongly suggest sticking with the coil that came with your machine, probably for about 6 to 12 months. The reason being, the coil that is supplied with most metal detectors these days, especially with the Nocta range, is a general purpose coil. It's designed to handle most terrains reasonably well. And if you're just starting out, it's best to use a coil like that rather than messing about and trying to get a specific coil for specific needs. Different coils will do different jobs. Generally, the smaller the coil, the less depth you'll get, but the more precision you'll get. And the bigger the coil, the more depth you'll get, but the less precision you'll get. So if you're in a trashy land, a smaller coil, especially an elliptical coil, would do you really well. If you're on open farmland with not many targets, then a big round double D coil would be fantastic for that. But if you are just starting out, don't get yourself confused, don't mess around with extra coils until at least 6 to 12 months worth of experience, and then hopefully you'll get to know the machine, get to know how it reacts, and then when you do get a new coil, you'll be able to see the difference that that coil's making from the get-go. You won't be trying to learn the machine and the new coil at the same time. The other thing to note, especially looking at swing speed just now, when you get a new coil of a different size or a different shape, you do need to adjust your swing and your pace. If it's a smaller coil, you'll need to walk more slowly to make sure that your swings are overlapping. And if it's a bigger coil, any deviation in terms of being parallel with the ground will mean that coil is going to hit the ground on the edges. Okay, so you do need to make sure your swing technique and your knowledge of the machine is up there and ready, and you've got the experience before then starting to get extra coils and swapping things in and out. Don't complicate things too early, and because if you do, you're going to get confused and you may well end up giving up the hobby a little bit sooner. So make sure you wait and use the general purpose coil that's supplied with the metal detector when you first start out, get that experience, and then you can start specialising in certain coils for certain areas as time goes on. Another question I get asked quite a bit is about insurance. Do I need insurance to go out metal detecting? There was a post online fairly recently that got a lot of attention from someone asking about insurance because they'd gone to their local council and the local council said you need to have at least £1 million worth of public liability insurance in order to metal detect on council land. And they're like, well, that's amazing, that's like really high, what do I do? That's normal, that's actually quite low. If you think about it, if you go into a park, say, a public land, council-owned land of some description, maybe a playing field, quite often under these fields there'll be utility lines, there'll be power cables, plumbing. My local park, I'm not allowed to detect him. Local council won't let anyone detect him because underneath that park are a couple of massive gas canisters, so supplying the local area. So there are things under those parks that you don't realise are there, and if you don't have insurance, any damage you cause to those utilities or anything else in the area will need to be covered, so you may have to pay out of your own pocket. Personally, I mean, there's a few organisations you can do. I'm not an advocate for any of them, but the one I personally go with is the NCMD here in the UK. They'll insure you for quite a high amount of money. I can't remember what it is. If I can figure it out before I edit the video, I'll put it down the bottom there, but it's more than £1 million by quite some way. They'll cover you more than what you need on there, and they'll give you other support and advocacy for the hobby as well. So they're quite a good organisation, but check around, see what else is around there. It is very, very cheap. NCMD, I say, is about £8 per year to join that scheme, and you are insured and covered for the whole year for £8. It's not much. It doesn't cost you much, and it is a good idea to make sure you've got it. It may even help you get new permissions if you can tell the landowner or the council that you've got that insurance. That may help you get a permission more readily than if you don't have that in place. The other thing is, if you go on big organised digs, quite often you need to have some kind of insurance in place before you can arrive. You need to prove that you've got that insurance before you can actually go ahead and detect on a big weekend event, depending on the event. So it's always a good idea to get yourself insured, and I say it doesn't cost very much at all for a year's membership. So yeah, look into that. NCMD is one I use, but have a little look around and see what might work best for you. So this is probably a good point in the video for me to pause for a moment and just say that if you are not subscribed to this channel and you are a beginner and you're looking for tips and tricks and advice, or just metal detecting content in general to get yourself excited about the hobby of metal detecting, hit the subscribe button down below. I put out a video pretty much every single week. Most of the time it'll be a hunt with one of the Nocta machines, and I normally give a commentary as I go as to what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, what reading I'm getting, VDIs, I'll let you hear the tones, all that kind of stuff, and I'll show you what I find. It'll be good stuff, it'll be the bad stuff, it'll be everything I find completely. So you'll get a really honest, rounded view of my metal detecting hunt on that day. I also do occasional videos like this, questions and answer videos, testing videos, little bits of advice videos, that kind of stuff as well. So it's a really good resource, I think, if you'd like to consider subscribing to the channel. And if you are more experienced and you're watching this video and you're not subscribed, maybe you can follow along and hit the subscribe button as well, because you'll get new metal detecting content from me on a very regular basis. So let's get back to the questions and see if we can get a couple more out before the end of the video. Another question I get regularly from both beginners and more experienced metal detectorists is how do they get into making videos of their metal detecting adventures? Now, I've made a couple of videos 2 or 3 years ago now on this. You can go back and look on the channel for that, just with some more specific advice on equipment and editing gear and that kind of thing. But just broadly, just do it, to be honest. There's no real trick to it. Make sure you get yourself a decent camera. I'd suggest getting an external microphone. Just a clip-on lavalier microphone is perfectly fine. Get a little windbreak on it if you can, just to get rid of the wind noise. But just something you can clip on your collar or your harness. You can get the harness I just mentioned actually is for your phone or a GoPro, something like that. You can have your GoPro, your phone on your chest on a little harness. Very, very cheap. You can probably get that whole setup minus the camera for 20 or 30 pounds here in the UK if you just have a little look on Amazon or eBay. So harness with your camera, maybe a smartphone or a GoPro on there, get yourself a decent microphone and get out there and just start filming. Find your own style, and yeah, you'll be surprised as to how things develop. If you want to see just how far you can develop your skills just by going out and giving it a go, I don't normally recommend this too much, but if you go back to my first ever episode, episode 1 of D-Tekt Sussex, you'll see just how far this channel has come. If you watch that episode and then maybe watch my last hunt that I put out, you'll see just how far this channel has developed and how far my skills, both in filming and in talking to camera, has developed over the last 4.5 years almost. So yeah, the best advice I can give you is get a basic setup. You don't have to spend too much, and get out there and just try it. And once you've made your video, get it online. Don't be too shy about it. Don't worry about it. You're probably going to get a few negative comments here and there. You will. It's just part of the game of getting things on YouTube. But yeah, you just have to get out there and do it. In terms of editing, if you're filming on your phone, you can get good editing software for free on your phone. I have an Android phone. I use a bit of software if I'm doing quick edits on my phone called InShot. There's a free version. It has a watermark, but if you watch a 30-second video, the watermark can be taken away. It's got a lot of editing options in there. You can put your clips together, trim them down, add music, add text, add a few other little effects and transitions and things as well. So it's a good little bit of software on your phone you can use to edit your videos. If you want to do something a bit more advanced, like I do, I tend to edit my main videos on my laptop. I use a fairly advanced editor called DaVinci Resolve. It's a professional level editing suite. They use it in Hollywood. But if you want something a bit simpler, I used to use, when I first started out, I used to use a bit of software called HitFilm. I don't know what they're doing these days in terms of pricing and subscriptions. It used to be completely free, but have a little look at that and see if that's something you can do. Otherwise, if you have a Windows machine, certainly you'll have a very basic video editor built into that software. You won't be able to do anything particularly fancy, but you should be able to do some basic things like cutting clips together, maybe add a bit of text here and there, and you can get a really good basic level video out from that. Benefits of making video, obviously if you want to get yourself started on YouTube, that's one thing to do. The main reason I started making videos of my metal detecting hunts is to keep a record. So every hunt that I have done, every time I've picked up and used a metal detector since September 2019, so yeah, almost 4.5 years ago, I've recorded it, I've edited it, and I've put it on YouTube without exception, every single time. And I was a fairly new detectorist at the time when I started the channel. I've only been out a few times at that point. So if you want to go back, I've got a playlist with all the episodes on. If you want to go back and binge the whole thing, you can watch my journey from being a complete beginner, more or less, to where I am now, a member of the Nocta worldwide field team, the Nomads, and yeah, being able to make videos and give advice to people online who are just starting out myself. So yeah, hopefully that helps you a little bit on the video thing. Again, if you have any questions on anything in the video, drop me a comment down below and I'll try and clarify a bit further. A really common topic I get asked about on a weekly basis is about settings for machines. Now, it's going to be really hard for me to answer that in a broad sense today, but I'll do my best. Every machine is going to be different. I'm most familiar with the Nocta machines. You might be familiar with one of the other brands. But generally speaking, if you are new to the hobby and you've just got yourself a new metal detector, have a read through the manual. Even if you don't understand it all, doesn't matter. Even if there's settings and things on there you're not sure what they do. Have a quick look through the manual, because you'll learn quite a bit just from that first look through. And when you go out for the first time, don't worry about trying to fiddle with any of the advanced settings. If you've got things like iron filter, if you've got things like stability settings, bottle cap rejection, all of that kind of stuff, don't panic about that, okay? Just stick to the very, very basic settings. On the Nocta machines, they're quite good. They've got field mode, park mode, beach mode, and they might have an all metal mode as well, or something similar. So just pick the most relevant mode you can. If you're in a trashy area on land, go for a park mode. If you're in a farm field, go for field mode. If you're on the beach, go for beach mode. Start off with that basic setting. Learn what sensitivity is. That's just how much power the machine is putting in and how sensitive the machine is to receiving signals back from the targets that you're detecting. And if you are getting a little bit of chatter, you can drop the sensitivity a little bit to quieten the machine down slightly. And ground balance is another good one to learn and read up on when you're starting. And if you are using a multi-frequency machine, noise cancellation. Those are really the four main things. Pick a relevant mode, understand what sensitivity does, ground balancing, and noise cancellation if applicable if you're using a multi-frequency machine like the Noctascore, Double Score or Legend machines. So just briefly, the mode, all that does is it adds filters, if you like, to the machine. So if you're in a trashy area, it'll help you find the good stuff amongst the trash. It'll probably increase the response speed of the machine. They call it recovery speed, to help you get through the multiple targets you're going to find in that kind of area. Field mode will usually be a bit deeper, and won't be quite so sensitive to trashy objects, so will be more sensitive to trashy objects, but you're not going to be finding more trashy objects, so it'll be more sensitive to the targets you're going to find. Beach mode will be automatically trying to counter the extra mineralization you'll get in the beach, in the land on the beach. Ground balance is a way for the machine to calibrate itself to the land you're on. Most land will have a level of mineralization in. Try saying that 3 times fast. Mineralization will affect the machine and give it extra chatter. So it's a way of just calibrating the machine to the mineralization in the ground and make sure you don't get any extra chatter that you don't want. And noise cancellation is kind of similar, but it's a way of adjusting the machine to cope with any ambient electromagnetic interference, or EMI. It's things from mobile phones, mobile phone masts, electrified fences, that kind of stuff can all cause interference to the machine, so it just helps the machine adjust itself to that ambient level of EMI. So hopefully that's a broad kind of answer to that question. Again, it's difficult with different machines and different brands to cover everything, but just go out with the simplest settings you can: the mode, sensitivity, ground balance, noise cancellation if you need to. Don't worry about anything else to start with, and just get out there and get some experience. Once you feel comfortable with the setup on those, then you can start experimenting with iron filters and bottle cap rejection and ground suppression and all sorts of other tips and tricks. But learn those things one thing at a time. Add one thing in. So maybe you'll hear about a setting that's in the manual, and you go to the manual, read about it, have a play with the machine, and next time you're out, give it a try, give it a whirl, and see how it goes. But take it slowly, don't try to run before you can walk. Just do things step by step and start out simple. Okay, so the last question on this list is about accessories and extra equipment. So the basic accessories you'll need when you're going out, apart from the metal detector itself, will be things like a digging tool. So you want a small trowel is usually quite good. A larger digging tool, so a spade if you're on land, or a sand scoop if you're on the beach. You'll need a pinpointer, which is a small elongated metal detector designed for just pinpointing things once you've got a hole open in the ground. You'll need something to keep your fines in, so a fines pouch is usually quite good, something that goes around your waist you can put your fines into, and within that it's a good idea to have some fines boxes to put the different fines into. I tend to have 2 or 3 different boxes and pouches that I put different fines into. I'll put my modern spendable coins in one, I'll put nicer fines like jewellery and things in another, and I've got a little square Tupperware box that I use just to put the tat and the rubbish in. I've got a video all on the accessories. If you go maybe a couple of months back, I've got a video on the top 10 accessories that I take out with me when I go metal detecting, so have a little look at that, check that out, and hopefully that'll help you a little bit further. But those are the absolute basics that you need when you go out metal detecting. If you're in a public space, good idea to have headphones. If you're not in a public space, still a good idea to use headphones, wired or wireless. Wireless tends to be a bit better because you haven't got the cable management to worry about, and you'll hear the tones a lot more clearly, and you won't be disturbing anyone else who's in the local area with the beeping coming from the machine. Okay, so those are the most common questions I get asked on a weekly basis from beginners to the hobby. I hope you found it useful. If you have, hit the like button down below, and it just tells YouTube that this video has been useful to you, and it'll hopefully recommend it to other people who may also find it helpful as well. If you're new to the channel, you haven't subscribed yet, you'd like to have hints and tips videos like this, as well as good, honest metal detecting content every single week, hit the subscribe button down below and you'll get a notification, if you hit the notification bell, from me every week with a brand new bit of content. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck in your metal detecting journey, whether you're just starting out or whether you're more experienced. Happy hunting. Have yourselves a truly fantastic week, everybody, and I hope I'll see you soon. Take care.